everybody, and welcome to the Global MEGAFist 12 as it returns here on IRM. It's a bit of a different situation right now. My name is Derek Osceola. I am joining you from a nondescript, very plain, featureless, windowless room under self-quarantine to provide you with this recap episode. This is a two-parter, tonight and Thursday night at the same time, to recap the 2019 HYPERFist qualifiers to determine which two fighters from each weight class will make their Global MEGAFist 12 debuts in the 2020 tournament, which kicks off live 1 week from today under unique situations and under social distance situations. There's a lot going on in this world, but far be it from us to stop the great plan of Most Glorious and Honorable Mr. Naga, which of course is to provide the #1 amateur mixed martial arts tournament in all of the world. We are going to get things started in just a second. Just before we do, we're going to go over and explain to you how this works, as this is mostly a recap episode with features, with some featured fights, of course, as it matters. This is the HYPERFist. Each weight class, lightweight, middleweight, and heavyweight, have 8 fighters competing in the HYPERFist tournament. 2 of those 8 fighters will advance to the 2020 Global MEGAFist 12 to replace the 2 fighters that were relegated last year. Once again, this is a double elimination format. So again, any fighter that loses one fight, their tournament is not up. There is a second chance, but that road gets much more difficult. The finals of the winner's bracket is the first fight for a spot in the Global MEGAFist 12, and those are the fights we're going to see tonight. We will know one of the 2 fighters from each weight class after tonight that will join the 10 already known fighters in this year's field. And of course, the losing finalist will have a second chance spot, as the second chance bracket, what way we call it instead of the loser's bracket, the second chance bracket is where they will fight the winner that comes out of that for the second spot. So there is a second chance if you don't win that first final. And of course, we have brackets already set up. We're going to go over them as we happen, but that's what it looks like. This is the lightweight HYPERFist. As you can see, we're going to focus in on that top half of the bracket. That final is going to be the focal point tonight. Those 3 fights across the 3 weight classes will determine the first fighter to qualify for the Global MEGAFist 12. And we have, of course, the middleweight bracket. It looks exactly the same. The names you'll be familiar with. Some of them you won't need to, as they'll be quickly exiting this tournament. But you'll find out which 2 of these fighters from each weight class will join the ranks of last year's champions, among other favorites. We're going to get things started with our heavyweight HYPERFist. These are the battles in the first round. We're going to go ahead and show you the first 2 rounds, recaps of those fights, as we whittle down before we get to our first ever final. We're starting out with the heavyweight HYPERFist right now. And this is the battle between Ali Halamit in the light blue and Jeff Perkins. You can see Halamit had the early advantage in this one. However, it ultimately came down to the wrestling and the long game of the man known as Handsome Jeff. The skater burnout did not end up winning this one. It went late into the third round, but that knockout from the mounted position spelled the end for Holomeat and gave Perkins his first win. Two of our older competitors battled in the first round as bootleg workout video creator Van Hart in the darker blue got beaten up in the first round pretty brutally by Hedonism Hank Langer, the thrill seeker who seeks thrills until he no longer finds them. But he found a thrill, and he found the chin of Van Hart repeatedly. That uppercut spelled the end early. A first round TKO for Langer. And we are seeing Monty Niles getting beaten early in this fight by Marty Sweats. Monty Niles, the living museum exhibit, was going for submissions, but the man who eats for a living on stream makes a living out of it. I don't understand how that works. I don't understand how someone can just stream to people through a computer and make that so much of their life, but Marty Sweats got a TKO win, and he did it. Our final first round battle was between Grant Grant, the retired drill instructor with shrapnel sticking out of his body. You can even see the random shards and pieces protruding, taking on Osha Kai Kamake, the man who cannot go a week without witnessing some violently brutal act, and maybe this week's brutal act was him receiving that knee right to the face. But Clado put the hurt on Kamake. This is late in the second round. He was already basically catatonic on the ground. The final punches were put in, and that is how the first round shook up. So there it is. That is the second round battles, and of course, the second chance bracket. Those fighters on the bottom are fighting to stay alive in this tournament. And we go to the second chance bracket. These fighters are fighting for their tournament lives. Ali Holomeat and Van Hart. They went toe-to-toe right from the get-go, knowing that one more loss would spell the end of their dreams for 2019. The road would be tough once you take that first loss, but there still is a chance. And that was the knockout we saw. Van Hart knocking out Ali Holomeat with that spinning back kick. Sending the burnout. Knocked out. Kamake and Monty Niles, they did battle in the other half of that loser bracket, that second chance bracket. And Kamake started it on the ground. Well, this took to a finish in the first round with a second left on the clock. Niles tried to find himself a submission victory, but you heard the clacker for 5 seconds to go. Kamake went into another zone, and the fight was over right there. But up on the winner's bracket, Handsome Jeff Perkins and Hedonism Hank Langer were looking for their second win. And Perkins, just with ease, kept Langer on the ground. He dominated him for all 3 rounds, striking and wrestling and controlling him when he could. Langer put a late charge in. This would ultimately go to a decision, but the winner at the end of it was, in fact, Perkins. The plus-sized male model that was once a football tight end goes to the finals. Who will he take on? Meat Eater Marty Sweats or Granite Grant Clay-Doh? Well, Sweats wanted to make a meal of this quickly. He wanted to eat and run. But Clay-Doh had other ideas. In the second round, he continued his ground domination. It was ground domination versus ground beef, and Marty Sweats was grounded like some ground beef. Fists tenderizing his face, and Clay-Doh is the other finalist, so this is how it will shake up. Handsome Jeff Perkins and Granite Grant Clay-Doh will battle for a spot in the Global MEGAFist 12. And that is the other side to it. Now, normally we would, in fact, show you this live, well, not live, but with full commentary. But here's the interesting thing that happened, folks. They did battle in the third round. The winner getting a spot in the Global MEGAFist 12. And we will be showing you this fight in full if there wasn't a very specific thing that happened when they did battle. As you can see, a back and forth battle. Perkins and Clay-Doh. Ground and pound was the name of the game for Perkins, but Clay-Doh stopped him every other time he had an answer for it. Ultimately, these two fought to such a close fight that the judges declared it a draw. And because of that, they said, let's do it again in the fourth showing. So this is how this is going to turn out. They fought 3 rounds to a draw. However, this is the rematch. Just one show later, we're going to take you to it right now.
Fight.
Heavyweight final action, and boy do we have some heavyweights. Handsome Jeff Perkins in the red, Granite Grant Clay-Doh in the green. 2 very different walks of life, 2 very different fighters.
Big takedown from Clay-Doh.
Very big takedown from Clay-Doh. He will be looking to try to keep this one on the ground. Clay-Doh TKO victory in the second round in his first fight. Got a third round TKO about halfway through the third round of his last fight for handsome Jeff Perkins. Well, he's already gone to a decision in the semifinals, but he knocked out Ali Halamid early in the third round of his first fight. This actually, interesting thing, Lucille, and we were talking about this. This is now the 4th fight for these 2 fighters, as they had to go to another fight. They drew. They had a draw in their first finals. So this is the second time they are doing battle. Will either of them regret chances missed in that first fight? We're going to have to find out.
Yeah, it's not too often you have a round 4 with an opponent immediately, especially in a tournament setting like this. But we have to have a winner. We have to have someone move on directly to Global MEGAFist, and we have to have someone enter that losers bracket.
Yeah, no doubt. Again, we're talking about that. It is fortunate, and this is the instance where neither of these fighters, obviously if the third round, which is where this fight first took place, the winners HYPERFist was over. They qualified. The loser got a week off to got a round off. They only had to fight again in the 5th round. So since there was a draw, we had that opening. Said, all right, come back and do it next week. And again, you don't usually see, you don't see that 4th round, potentially 5 and 6. Looks like we're going to a round 5 at this point, if you really want to count it that way, and I think we shall.
Time, stop, time, guys.
We're just... It's very surprising that we're seeing it, but this is an unusual circumstance, and just shows the caliber of these fighters.
Oh, absolutely. Very, very highly skilled fighters. I hate to bring up the elephant in the room, though. We've talked about it off air. Grant Plato, he claims to be a troop, which all of his stories sound suspect to me, and I hate to...
Kidding me?
I hate to levy that kind of accusation, but none of it adds up. None of it adds up to me.
Sounds like there are some websites I need to be researching after this fight tonight. Again, we have distinguished. We're always very, MMA in the military just seem to always go hand in hand, and no exception here in Global MEGAFist 12 and the HYPERFist. We think back to a fighter like Rear Sergeant Val Gibbs, a proud, very brave, unquestionable patriot and troop.
Absolutely. Nothing but respect for Rear Sergeant Val Gibbs.
Of course. But nonetheless, we have someone like Grant Plato, who lists that he is a retired drill sergeant after a very secretive mission, and you understand confidentiality is such a big thing to talk about in the military, or not to talk about is more like it, but he is pointed on various occasions, and I don't know how one could make that up, to various bits of shrapnel that have ended up in his body. He is very much part metal in this case.
I mean, I don't know how you grew up, Derek, but I knew plenty of kids growing up that you throw a spray paint can in a bonfire and you end up with some pieces of shrapnel littered throughout your body, and that just having chunks of metal embedded in his flesh isn't enough to convince me about that.
Okay, so you're not denying the fact that there is in fact shrapnel in that man's inside that man's flesh.
Oh, I put a magnet up to his chest and it stuck. I 100% believe that.
Fair enough. Okay, well, valor aside, what sort of advantages does that give a fight? Having metal in your body.
Well, it depends on where it's located. If it's in the fists and the shins and the knees, the elbows, that's definitely going to give advantage to any strikes you throw. If it's in the face, in the chest, that's less of an advantage. I mean, it might hurt your opponent's hand or foot when they attack you, but it's more likely going to just get buried deeper in once you get hit there, and that's just going to tear you all the pieces inside.
Again, any sort of physical contact, body on body, is going to just be uncomfortable for both fighters. You have to imagine, but again, a man like Plato will be more used to it. Yeah, and Perkins, we haven't really been talking about Perkins. He's just got the size and the weight and the heavy hammers to throw that just comes with that football career that he had to end fairly early, but found success from plus-size modeling, and maybe he'll find success in Global MEGAFist 12 if he gets the win tonight. That will do it for him.
Absolutely. He's opening up a sizable cut on Plato's eyebrow. He looks like it's a little bit of swelling as well. He's done very well in, as you said, rounds 4 and 5 now in this prolonged final bout of this HYPERFist.
Only feels natural that we'd go to a 6th round, a second part of a round 3, part 2, if you will.
Hey, that's close. You don't sit there and judge it. All right?
However you want to do the math of this. These two fighters just cannot seem to separate themselves from one another.
Are you ready?
And that's not just the magnetism. That might just be
guys, fight.
the equal.
Yeah, there are certain fighters that absolutely where regardless of other opponents they may face, you sometimes have two fighters who just are drawn, styles, whatever it happens to be, just create amazing fights, and they could fight 100 times and it'd be split 50-50 every single time.
I'm just hoping this is the one that swings it in their direction. You're seeing it's still fairly even. I'm not sure if I had to judge this one, I would know which way to go with it.
Yeah, it's been close. I think Perkins probably stole the second round with that flurry at the end. Plato might have taken the first. It's really close. It's tough to call either way.
It almost feels poetic that we come down to one final, and Perkins looking to get the victory, not by decision. He doesn't want to see the end of round 3. He wants to finish it right now.
Big shots from Jeff Perkins.
But the resiliency of both these fighters to withstand the best that their opponent can handle. And again, they're not slouches. This isn't a fluke of a fight. These are the two potentially strongest fighters in the HYPERFist heavyweight bracket. They both won their first 2 fights. That's not something you can just dismiss immediately.
No, absolutely. Both men have proven themselves inside the cage to be extremely tough, extremely competent fighters. It's no one's really pulled away in this third round. I mean, Perkins had some success early. Now Plato's landing some shots from on top. This is, I don't want to jinx it, but this could be another draw. We might have rounds, I guess it'd be 7, 8, and possibly 9.
Goodness me, I don't even know how we would have to handle that. We'd have to delay it in some other way, come up with a different sort of...
I think we just have to make these men fight immediately, just start it back up.
That might have to be the case. I think that would potentially happen if that were...
Stop. Fight's over, guys.
If we were to do that, yeah. I'm not opposed to that. But we go to the judges' scorecards for this.
See if someone separated themselves from in the judge's eyes.
Are you making the rare bet for the draw, or are you saying someone has a slight advantage in this? So hard to tell.
It's a coin flip.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 3 rounds of action, we go to the judges' scorecards for a decision.
I think we're going to have to just find
the
out
judges
together.
Score it 30,
the judges
27,
are making their
30,
decision.
27 and 30. 27, declaring the winner by unanimous
And they're giving
decision.
it to Perkins.
The head
Handsome Jeff Perkins makes his way into the Global MEGAFist 12. You can see how tired he is. Can barely celebrate. Yes, that is how it shook out. Handsome Jeff Perkins, the first heavyweight to join some illustrious names like Fritz Milgram, Lonnie Fescue, Dr. Igor Tonic, our 2019 champion, and many others in the Global MEGAFist 12 for Grant Plato. There is a second chance. He has to await who will emerge from the second chance bracket, as that person will have to fight Plato for that other spot. That is how the heavyweight bracket is at the moment. We're going to head over to the middleweight division and show you how that first 2 rounds shaped out and how we got to our first qualifier in that weight class. Two of our very unique characters, our sculptor who punches rock, Mason Quarry, taking on 3 Ezekiel Subset Alpha, who believes he came from the future. And if he did, then he had some information on Mason Quarry that allowed him to hold his own in this fight. as he went for submission after submission, but ultimately got the win with a Kimura, tapping out Mason Quarry and moving on to round 2. Red versus green in this one. Thaddeus Rose, the over-dramatic actor, taking on Robbie Cheadle, the impossible Robbie Cheadle, the plant-based fighter. And they went back and forth for 3 rounds. Halfway through round 3, it was Rose who caught Cheadle in this triangle choke, tapping him out and getting the submission victory. Our third fight of the first round of the middleweights has Ed Picayune going for submission after submission. Our aggressive investigative freelance journalist. Apologize for we had some audio issues in this one. We apologize for the audio issues we ran into. Again, sincere apologies there. But Ed Picayune was able to get the submission victory over a Hollywood cop, Patricio Avenal. Submissions were the answer. What do we see 4 for 4 as D.O. Terra Firma faced off against Dr. Clark Messick. And we had some audio issues on that one, but Messick put the hurt on the road worker Terra Firma, who tried to hold his own in this one. But Dr. Clark Messick, the frustrated history teacher, met him with a knee that sent him into the history books for his first ever victory. And this is how the second round shapes up. 3 Ezekiel versus Rose, Picayune versus Messick, and the other 4 fighting for their tournament lives in the second round. Robbie Cheadle, the impossible Robbie Cheadle, was almost about to win it early in the first round, but Mason Quarry came back and punched him into, well, tried to sculpt his hair into something more stone-like, but Cheadle, Robbie Cheadle, dropped the sculptor and made more martial than art in that one. He sent Quarry packing and stayed alive in this HYPERFist. Patricio Avenal versus D.O. Terra Firma, trying to get back onto a better, making a better second impression than they did in their first fights. Both of them lost. Avenal lost to a first round submission, but he put the hurt on Terra Firma in the first round with some mounted punches. Really tried to just stick it to D.O.T. Saw a nice Superman elbow. And once he got the striking going, he took it to the ground and grounded, pounded, and got a little more camera time. The highway patrolman, he moves on in the second chance bracket. 3 Ezekiel, Subset Alpha versus Thaddeus Rose, both with submission victories in their first round. Apologies too, we had, again, some audio issues. But it was 3 Ezekiel, Subset Alpha, who just kept going. It was back and forth as far as the as far as submission attempts went. But ultimately, it was Subset Alpha who got the submission victory over Rose and moves to 1 fight away from joining the Global MEGAFist 12. Who would his opponent be? Would it be Ed Picayune or would it be Dr. Clark Messick? And there would be submission attempt after submission attempt. But ultimately, Picayune would just endure it. He would endure the strikes from Messick. And in round 3, a triangle choke gave another submission victory to Picayune. So that is how our final will be. 3 Ezekiel Subset Alpha, Ed Picayune. The winner qualifies. The loser awaits one of those 4 fighters fighting for their tournament life. That is our final. We're going to it right now. Lucille Cramblecorn and myself were on the call for that one live back in 2019. Here is the first middleweight final in the HYPERFist. Well, here we go. 3 Ezekiel Subset Alpha in the blue. Ed Picayune in the dark green. Strangest thing to say here. Actually, these two are very similar in the path they took to get to this point. The winner, of course, moving on to the Global MEGAFist 12. But for the winner, their journey will be over for this year, 2019. Ezekiel Subset Alpha going for that early submission. Less than just about 40 seconds into this fight. And Lucille, again, we were saying both these fighters, very similar paths to get to this point. All of their victories by submission. Both first victories were first-round submissions. Their semifinal victories were third-round submissions, and we're seeing Picayune with that triangle. He does like to use that triangle.
Yeah, both men continuing to look for submissions against guys who, have a similar background, as it were. Both men either very confident in their skills or very dismissive of their opponents, or perhaps they simply just don't know maybe how to fight standing up as well as they do on the ground. Only time will tell.
Always possible to be a combination of all 3. It's been quite the, we saw the first attempt for 3 Ezekiel, but Picayune has been throwing those legs up for the triangle choke so frequently that you think 3 Ezekiel would learn to just at least kind of be able to defend it. He's been defending so far, but at least just try to get keep the leg from coming up in the first place.
Yeah, there's a couple of techniques to avoid it. Keeping your arms in tight so the opponent can't really maneuver it properly. 3 Ezekiel getting a little sloppy from full guard, leaving himself open to these attempts, but so far they've just been attempts, nothing seriously locked in by Picayune.
Again, my submission knowledge is a little lacking compared to the stand-up game, but isn't something called answering the phone one of the techniques to counter a triangle choke? It's kind of just keeping your hand locked in with your, if I recall correctly.
It's more often used for an arm triangle, but it can help against
arm triangle. There you go. That's what it is. Yeah.
But it can be used for a standard triangle. It's the premise is simply getting your arm in between the choking appendage of your opponent to provide your arteries some space so that the blood continue to flow to your brain so you remain conscious. get that arm in, get the hand on your ear, as you were using a phone, as it was properly intended, and just providing that little bit of space to keep you conscious.
Of course, yes. Well, that's always a huge thing to know. Thank you so much for all of that.
Ready?
For all of that information. Again, not just for myself, but for all the viewers who may actually look at this as more of a sport than the spectacle it has come to be of untrained, unaccustomed fighters from all walks of life being thrown in for zero pay, but the chance of semi-immortality, I suppose.
Yeah, this isn't simply strange men in colorful shorts bludgeoning each other for zero money. It's a legit martial art. It's a legitimate sport.
I mean, it is still part of that first thing you said. It is definitely that as well, but no doubt.
Yeah, that's what puts the butts in seats. We won't lie about that here at Global MEGAFist and HYPERFist fights.
I mean,
that is what's
if there's one thing that brings people to Branson, Missouri, as Picayune goes for yet another armbar submission attempt, if there's something that brings people to Branson, Missouri, I found over the years, it's unmitigated violence.
100%. I can't think of literally a single other reason to make the trip.
And it's why the Nugety Center is such a place to come to. And, again, if you ever get a chance to come down, check out the Global MEGAFist 12. Check out the HYPERFist.
Bring the kids. There's loose teeth for sale. We don't know whose they are, but they got knocked out of a mouth somehow.
It's a souvenir is what I see as a Kimura attempt. With just about a minute to go in this one.
Trying to wrench that shoulder joint all to pieces, but it doesn't look like Picayune's making much progress, and the escape from 3 Ezekiel.
No doubt about that. We are seeing this happening as we go. It's been nothing but defense for 3 Ezekiel. And again, we don't even get a chance to really see, his skills against an equally matched opponent.
He's showing off good defense, but that's about it. But defense, it doesn't score points. It's its own reward by keeping you in the fight. And there we see the arm triangle.
Yeah, there it is again. And 3 Ezekiel just immediately has to battle his way out of it. Just hope that he just tires out. And that's not a strategy at this point. Hoping and waiting is not a big strategy, as 3 Ezekiel may have transported to another timeline for a split second. But 2 rounds to go, 2 rounds in the books, 1 round to go. The winner earns a spot. Take on perhaps the 2019 winner, Dale Branston. We saw that just recently, that big victory for Branston. But nonetheless, we are in for a 3rd round. That could be anyone's fight. So far on the cards, I think the more active of the two is obviously Picayune. But again, as we've seen with these fighters, especially in the submission game, anything can happen. It just takes a second that your guard falls down and you're done.
I want 4s and 5s.
Absolutely. It's a dangerous game, and 3 Ezekiel has been close to falling victim to it a couple of times, and he's escaped by the skin of his teeth in that 2nd round.
Let's fight.
That he has, and he comes charging in, but gets the takedown. I think kind of just realized that Picayune almost was kind of baiting him in, and we can see this has been working from the guard, working from his back has been Picayune's thing so far, but 3 Ezekiel takes him out. Maybe he has time to work. The urgency is high in him now.
But he got reversed. He is, and Picayune is just slicing through that guard.
There it is. It has been just vicious. Again, not much for the striking from either of them, but just enough to kind of stay busy. As again, that investigative reporter style of Picayune, he just sees openings and he attacks them. He goes for it. He's got good vision. He's got that tenacity. It's just so much of that skill to really just go by.
got another arm
one.
triangle.
Goodness me.
Ezekiel is not employing the phone defense. He's just. It might not be a tight squeeze. He's just riding it out and
waiting. Yeah, it's not much of a really much of a strategy again, but again,
but
kind of seeing it. Yes.
But sometimes if a guy doesn't have a great squeeze, you can tell and just kind of hope he burns his arms out.
That's true. Yeah, we got it. But again, I think at this point we're seeing Yoon with about a minute to go. He's not tiring out. I think that's very safe to say.
Yeah, I think Ezekiel is just kind of lost. He probably came into this fight thinking he was the submission guy, and Yoon has just proved to be his better in most ways. I mean, he is attacked much more frequently and with much more success than Ezekiel, and I think it's just flustered Ezekiel subset alpha.
So surprising to see. We weren't expecting this at all.
Oh my God, he's going for a mounted go-go plata.
Wow, he's got the leg up and in. Do you think he even knows what he's doing? I mean, this is astounding. Or does he just think, I got my leg in there, let's just try to choke the man with it?
I have to imagine he does not know what a go-go plata is. I can't imagine that. It's even in high-level grappling and MMA, you see it maybe once a year, if that. It's not a common submission. So these are not common fighters either. These are fighters who don't know what they don't know, if you really want to put it that way. And I would like to put it that way. And I'm glad you put it that way, Derek. But yeah, it's been quite a fight. We will go to a decision. Again, it feels like it definitely feels like it's a foregone conclusion. We're going to see one of these fighters making their way into.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 3 rounds of action, we go to the judges' scorecards for a decision.
And I think it is.
The judges score it 29,
pretty
28,
much a given. Yeah,
30,
it is going to Ed Picayune.
And 30, 27.
He will, in fact,
by unanimous decision,
be going to the Global MEGAFist 12 for Ezekiel subset alpha. He does have a second chance. There will be a second chance. We will have to wait it out, but yes, that is how things went so far in the middleweight division. Ed Picayune joins the ranks of the Global MEGAFist 12. He will not come in alone. Ezekiel subset alpha has a second chance as he will battle the fighter that emerges from the second chance bracket for that second and final slot. At this point, we now can go to our final weight class, the lightweight division. A lot of exciting fighters in this one. Let's go to their first round of action and see how that tournament shaped up. Boy, were Yikes McDonald the morning show or drive time. I'm not even certain what era, but he's a radio host. I think he's a morning zoo host. I'm not exactly sure. As he put the hurt in the second round to Preston Groom and sent him packing. Preston Groom, the low-budget animal wrangler. Another battle between Deputy Snooter Magnum, our bomb-sniffing man from the K9 unit, as he took on Aldi Albertson, The man who runs his own rogue grocery store. And the shelves were getting stocked by the fists of Magnum, who just was all over him and got the knockout victory from some vicious ground and pound in the third round. In the next fight, we saw Walter Birch, professional disciplinarian, face off against reverse predator Dwayne Mandibles in the green, of course, and Birch was looking to put a hurt on and deliver a lesson to any opponent. Like so many mixed martial artists of the past, his experience in fighting comes from beating up children and disciplining them. And he's got a quick victory. He made short work of the reverse predator. And our final fight from the first round pitted Lenny Scaffold up against Neil Peppercorn. The window washer Scaffold with the fear of heights threw an elbow from a great height and dropped the frustrated waiter. Peppercorn sent him and gave him his just desserts. That's how the first round ended. Now we're seeing the semifinals and the four fighters who are fighting for their tournament life. Preston Groom and Aldi Albertson both suffered losses in their first round fights. The loser would be eliminated from the HYPERFist. The winner would move on with a chance to have a second chance in qualifying for the Global MEGAFist 12. And it was back and forth, but Albertson kept going for submission after submission, until finally it was this guillotine that put away Groom and sent the Animal Wrangler back to the zoo. Neither Dwayne Mandibles or Neil Peppercorn made a big splash in their first round fight, but Neil Peppercorn channeled the anger of so many rude customers and diners, as well as, of course, the suffering that knockout by Lenny Scaffold. But Mandibles was just putting more hurt on the already hefty shoulders of the low-wage worker who's working on tips. He is getting a bonus, but of course he isn't, because nobody gets paid in the Global MEGAFist 12. And this was an exciting semifinal. Yikes McDonald versus Deputy Snooter Magnum. It was back and forth the entire time. McDonald had multiple chances to put it away. He evaded submissions by Magnum, and the Deputy went for an armbar himself, but a Kimura late in the third round with 6 seconds to go. You can even hear the clackers that were just about to go off when the referee spotted the tap. Deputy Snooter Magnum went on. Would he face Walter Birch or Lenny Scaffold? Birch made short work. Birch made short work of his first round opponent. He did the same for Scaffold. He got a TKO winner for Dwayne Mandibles, but dropped Lenny Scaffold with a flurry of punches. Scaffold withstood a lot of damage, but ultimately it was too much. And with 1 second to go in the round, the referee saw enough and called the fight. So Walter Birch and Deputy Snooter Magnum would fight for that elusive third win and a spot in the Global MEGAFist 12. For the loser, they would have a second chance like so many other fighters. There's only 1 second chance in the HYPERFist. Winning it is so much more of a simpler path. To win your 3 fights, you are through. We head to Lucille Cramblecorn, who joined me on commentary for the first final of the lightweight HYPERFist.
Let's go, guys. Fight.
Here we go, Lucille. Lightweight final. A spot in the Global MEGAFist 12 for 2020 is on the line. We are looking at 2 tough fighters who've actually taken very different paths to get here. In the blue, Deputy Snooter Magnum, our bomb-sniffing man, part of the K9 unit, taking on Walter the Yardstick Birch, professional disciplinarian. And Lucille, what are we seeing so far? Well, first off, we're seeing 2 fighters that are just that have taken very different paths. The very quick way, 2 first-round finishes for Walter Birch, whereas taking him for a big ride, Magnum left it late. 2 third-round victories, including one with 6 seconds to go in the semifinals.
Yeah, we're seeing, Birch, his power of disciplining children has definitely translated to fighting grown adults with his 2 early finishes, whereas Snooter is content to, basically look or, wait an opponent out and see the opening that presents itself to find the finish. A knockout, a submission, he's going to find a way to win. It doesn't really matter how it happens. He's content to play the long game and wait for you to make the mistakes.
And we were talking about this off air, but about those 2 things again. It shows that he's been tested already. Someone like Walter Birch, it might only be looking for that early finish, whereas Magnum already knows he has the stamina, he has the ability to go the long game. He has taken it pretty much all but the entirety of a fight.
Yeah, absolutely. That kind of stamina is something that's very crucial, especially a guy like Birch who, a lot of times he loads up a lot on his strikes looking for that quick knockout. And, if he keeps up throwing these big, heavy haymakers and can't finish Magnum, he might not have much left for the next round, or if it even goes to a third. So it's something he's going to have to keep an eye on as this fight progresses.
Time, stop. Time, guys.
No doubt about that. He will have to watch, as now we are going into uncharted territory for Walter Birch. A second round for the first time in his very early amateur mixed martial arts career. Again, both these fighters 2-0. Neither have tasted defeat. Again, we were talking about it. A submission victory in the semifinals for Magnum with 6 seconds left on the clock. Unbelievable result there, as he took out Yikes McDonald, whereas Walter Birch TKO'd Lenny Scaffold with a second to go in the first round. In their first fights, very similar. Birch 77 seconds to TKO Dwayne Mandibles. Aldi Albertson was knocked out by Magnum, so he's got some hands as well. But he did it with about 25 seconds to go in that fight.
You don't sit there and judge it, all right? You go out there and just keep fighting.
And you see Magnum, I think it might have been from that knee off the takedown attack. Magnum's got a bit of a cut over his brow. Doesn't seem like it's going to be bleeding into his eye and affect his vision, but it's you know, it could become bothersome as the fight goes on, especially if it opens up any wider.
No doubt about that, and we're seeing, well, again, Birch starting to come out a little bit less tentative as he did in the first round. We're not used to, again, he's maybe starting to get an idea that he's, that he has to play the long game a bit. This is a heck of an opportunity to be, for the very first time, you know, checking out how your stamina is most of the time.
Oh, absolutely. Magnum is... I apologize for interrupting.
No, go ahead. No, please, yeah.
I was just saying that Magnum is definitely making Birch work for this, you know, win or lose. It looks like it's going to be a long haul, a long night for both men.
Yeah, this is absolutely going to be exhausting of a fight, and the mounted position with 1.5 minutes to go already. Now, this is going to be so exhausting, not just to have the weight of your opponent on top of you, but constantly reacting and constantly having to move and adjust to what your opponent is doing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's the riding weight. It's, you know, it's on constantly being defensive, not knowing exactly if your opponent's going to strike, to try and improve position, to look for a submission. You know, if you're not used to that kind of pressure, it can become exhausting just worrying about, you know, the anxiety of what's going to happen next, and it can really drain, you know, new fighters who just don't have that experience.
No doubt about that, and to his credit, Birch works his way out of it. Again, I think maybe just the Snooter Magnum in his very dog-like demeanor, he gets excited, he kind of loses focus for just a second, and Birch found that opportunity, but right back to it. And he also has that dog-like, that canine-like hyper focus on a single thing, and when that happens,
he's going to clamp down and just, you know, keep hold of you as long as he can.
No,
big shots from Birch.
Well, again, we're seeing it withstanding. No booping of the nose this time. Hurts.
Nice hip throw.
That was doing so much.
Yeah, I don't know if Magnum is trained in judo, or if maybe some sort of you know, some sort of martial arts program at his police academy taught him some of these throws, but they look pretty advanced for a bomb sniffing man.
No doubt about that. I mean, I think, you know, again, if he is in a police unit,
pay attention to me. Don't vary from the game
then there
plan,
is some
right?
sort of, I guess, what's the word for it?
Combative training, I guess?
Yeah, there is some sort of combat training that comes with it, but not entirely certain. That is, I guess maybe it's more using the momentum, and a man like Birch has that momentum to use and just, you know, use against him.
Yeah, redirect the momentum and make the opponent pay.
That was the word. Redirect was the phrase I couldn't think of.
You gotta fight your fight. You gotta take
big damage on Magnum. Those cuts are looking pretty rough.
Agreed. That is a very dangerous thing to see here.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Yeah, nonetheless, we're looking for
fight.
this, and drops him right off the bat. Now this is the action we were kind of expecting from Birch from the get-go, but apparently not this time. Getting kind of an idea that maybe this could be. He's got to feel like he's behind. If you're his corner, it's your duty to let him know that he is possibly losing this fight right now, and this is a situation he's not used to.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, there is a school of thought that some fighters adhere to, that they don't want to know if they're losing because it gets in their head too much, and they either freeze up or they get maybe a little too aggressive, and that leads to openings for the opponent. But you know,
I
you don't
believe
really know.
in that personally, yeah. But I mean, I want to know if I have to go for broke on this fight.
Oh, absolutely, and especially with the you know, these new fighters, they don't know how they're going to react to that kind of knowledge. But even without being told by the corner, Birch has to know that second round did not go particularly well for him.
Agreed. I think you know, the writing is literally on his face in that cut and that mouse that he's got. It's just not looking good, and again, just The winner, the odds, the stakes are so very high. The winner will join some of the great fighters like Trevor Serrano, the Goblin Rob Lynn, Big Guinness Swordhouse, and of course JC Switcher, the winner of this year's Global MEGAFist 12. They will join that. It will be the road in 2019 will be over for them. The loser, again, still just has one more fight to win as they will move down to the second chance bracket, but to that final for a spot. All to play for here in this third round, all to fight for as well.
Birch is showing some success, but really doesn't have much of an answer when Magnum really grits his teeth and searches for these big takedowns, these big throws, these big slams.
Yeah, we're definitely starting to see that this is just the kind of fight that Magnum will be taking to an opponent, and I think there's going to be a lot of fighters that this from the lightweight division. We loved watching the lightweight division this past year. This might be what we see, as that is the end of the fight, and Magnum sure looks like he's aware that he won that one. If nothing else, I think his corner might have told him, but this might be the style that could neutralize some of the big names.
Oh yeah, if his chin can hold up, we've seen some guys at lightweight with some serious power, but if his chin can hold up and he can utilize his really smothering top game, it's going to be tough for anyone in the Global MEGAFist 12 to contend with Deputy Snooter Magnum.
No doubt about that. We might be seeing just a bit of a, I hate to use the word wild card.
Ladies and
almost
gentlemen,
like
after 3 rounds of action, we go to the judges' scorecards for a decision. The judges score it
cliche,
30,
but we'll go into the judges'
27,
decision, and
30,
I think it
27,
looks like,
and 30.
yeah, it's academic at this point. The Dog Man has done it. The Dog Man cometh into the Global MEGAFist 12. Deputy Snooter Magnum breathes a sigh of relief. No more fights in 2019 for him. He is moving on. Yes, it would be Deputy Snooter Magnum with the decision victory. And that just shows you how close these fights have been contested, how competitive it is in the HYPERFist, how badly these fighters want it to make it into the Global MEGAFist 12. We now know 11 of the 12 fighters in each weight class. Today we congratulated and we welcomed into the Global MEGAFist 12 field handsome Jeff Perkins in the heavyweight division, Ed Picayune in the middleweight division, and Deputy Snooter Magnum to the lightweight division. But that is not all. A second fighter emerges from this field, and we'll find out on Thursday who that will be. Until then, we will see you. We will take it from there and leave you with a nice little highlight of the fights and the violence you saw. We'll be back here on Thursday in just 2 days from now. Thursday night, we will be on this channel 8 p.m. Eastern, where the second set of fights that determine who makes it to the Global MEGAFist 12 in 2020 will happen. We hope to see you there. Thanks to Lucille Cramblecorn for joining me on commentary for those fights. My name is Derek Osceola, and we will see you next time with more HYPERFist action. And of course, the Global MEGAFist 12 begins live in 1 week's time.